Joining us live this morning is CTV political commentator Scott Reid, who's prepared his fair share of politicians for debates. So, Scott, this is an interesting setup here. Doug Ford, a comfortable double-digit lead, not as dominating perhaps as it was at the beginning of the campaign. So what do Mart Stiles and Bonnie Crombie have to come out doing in this first debate in Northern Ontario? Because this is kind of the warm-up for the main event, isn't it?
It is, and you want to take some learnings if you're Mart Stiles or Bonnie Crombie from the Northern debate. But it's really, really important. Having prepared premiers for this debate, you got to be careful. This isn't like a normal debate. This Northern debate, it's local councillors, mayors, people that chair economic development commissions, and they are asking pointed questions that are hyper-local. It's more of a bear pit, Nick. So I always try to tell leaders, don't treat this like it's a debate. It feels weird in that context to suddenly wheel on the premier and go, why are you releasing a video about Washington when you know that's against the rules? It will land like a lead balloon in that room. Instead, use it to get your rhythm down. Standing on stage with the other leaders. Think about Monday, the day that's to come when it's the real show in front of the full province. So work out your nerves, work out your rhythm, figure out how you want to physically interact with the other leaders. That's a huge part of it. People forget. They think the debates are about words. They're about images.
So do you think then that the candidates or the leaders, I suppose, Scott, will be sort of keeping their almost Monday strategy close to their chest today, and this will just kind of, like you said, get the rhythm, get the warm-up, maybe practice a few lines? It won't necessarily be the full-fledged debate that we'll see on Monday.
You got it. They're going to treat it like a Q&A session. They're going to try to connect with the people in the room. They'll be respectful of the people in the room. It won't be as much of a boxing match, but you do also, as you say, you want to make certain you don't make the mistake of getting into the rhythm of the debate today and then blowing your big line. I've been working on this great line on healthcare, and I really socked it to him in North Bay. Well, now you've burned the use of that line for the actual leaders debate when, again, maybe all the eyes of the province are on you. So there's quite a bit of strategy that goes into not just the leaders debate, but especially playing the Northern debate off of the leaders debate and how those two things interact.
Scott, could you tell me about this? I mean, you've done this. You've been behind the scenes in these rooms where you're preparing, candidates for debates here. Is it kind of like, the SNL writing room where people are kind of like writing down lines and one-liners and sort of hit lines, and you're trying to sort of, okay, how's this going to play? How's that going to play? Is that really what goes on?
A bunch of things happen. So if you have a certain portion of rehearsal where you actually have people standing in as the other leaders, or you try to get the rhythm of the format, the timing, because, you can write something on paper, but bringing it to life is a whole other thing. But yeah, you're right. You do get people thinking, okay, what's the scenario going to be now? We know that Ford will say this when you raise the green belt. So then we'll come back with that. And you try to literally map it out. You try to write a play where you give yourself runs and you come up with one-liners that are catchy. That could be the clip. And everybody is competing, particularly today. They're, in this day and age, they're competing for the meme, for the one-liner, for the thing that goes, the reel that goes viral. And so that does come down to zingers. Well, I'll tell you a quick story, Nick. One time, way back in the midst of time, preparing for the 1993 leaders debate, yes, I'm that old, there was 4 of us locked up in a writer's room, just like you're saying. They're like, okay, you go and just write one-line zingers for Mr. Chrétien, who was running as opposition leader to be prime minister. After a full day locked in this room with no water, no food, no friendship, nothing, we're just there writing pages of paper, Mr. Chrétien came in and he goes, I hear you guys are writing the line that I will not use because I am Jean Chrétien. I'm funnier than all of you put together.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So Jean Chrétien ultimately won that election. Doug Ford seems to be in the lead right now. What are the dangers heading into the debates for Doug Ford in terms of his temperament and his sort of readiness for, having basically 3 competitors come after him?
I'd say 2 things, and you put your finger on really both of them. It comes down to temperament. One, don't get angry. Doug Ford has this kind of almost invulnerability shield around him where when he's hit with a hard, tough issue, he kind of shrugs his shoulders and says, gee, folks, maybe I messed up there, but, I meant well and I'm working hard and I learned my lesson and now I'm trying to do better. And more than almost any politician I can recall, he gets away with that. When he loses is when he gets angry, when people see the sharp side of him, when he kicks down, when he gets mean. So he's got to make certain that he doesn't lose his temper. He doesn't let anybody get under his skin. The second thing is he's debating with two women. Now, he's done that before with Kathleen Wynne and Andrea Horwath. Handled himself well, so remember those lessons. You don't want to look like a bully, and I got to tell you, the truth of the matter is, coaching someone who's a man, interacting with women, when you come back sharp, you got to be careful. You don't want to look like you're mansplaining or bullying or trying to physically assert yourself in a way that strikes the camera as strange and might alienate voters. So I would watch for those two things if I was Doug Ford.
Okay, it's going to be an interesting couple of days in the campaign with these debates. Scott Reid, appreciate this. We know we'll talk to you on Tuesday, probably somewhat before that as well over the weekend here. Appreciate the time today.
Thanks, Nick. Would you just pass on my Valentine's to Jen and just tell her I got the letter and the chocolates, but I'm asking her, I'm begging her, please don't go falling in love with me. Jen, I'll just break your heart.
You're irresistible, Scott. We all love you. All right.